Hi, it's montze.t, and this is
Sarah Shopping.
and today we're going to be doing the second interview of CRE4. So, imagine you have an opportunity to get out your idea to every living American. What is one thing that you would like to clear up for them about suicide or abortion, and how would you think that would change as a result of highlighting this piece of information? And what data or evidence would you use to support yourself?
I'll choose the topic of suicide just because I've recently learned about it in my psychological disorders class. But we were going over the idea that, or like a bunch of myths about suicide. And one of the big ones is that, like, if you bring up the idea of suicide to somebody who's not previously suicidal, then that's going to, like, give them the idea to then, like, go out, like, I don't know, go through with it. And that is completely a myth. Like, if you talk about suicide with somebody who is not already suicidal, that's not going to create that. And then, like, to push it further, if you talk about suicide with somebody who is, again, same thing, it might not push them towards it, but it might instead, like, open up, like, a floor for them to comfortably talk about what they're going through, what they're experiencing. And the main thing about, like, the main two things that cause suicide is, like, people who just feel, like, detached from everybody and that they have, like, no connections. But if you open up that floor and be like, okay, here's a part, like, we can, or here's, like, an opportunity, a safe space for you to talk about how you're feeling and, like, kind of connect on this, and that can, like, kind of bring them back in. And I think that would just help by making it less of, like, a taboo to talk about, because it's still, like, a very important topic, and, like, it's like a hush topic, but it's like it really shouldn't be, because the less people talk about it, the more people feel isolated when they have those thoughts, and that's gonna push them to commit suicide even further in the end. And then what was the second part?
What data or evidence would you use to support yourself?
There's plenty of studies that, not plenty of studies, but there are studies. I'm not exactly sure who wrote them or, like, what they're called, but they're in my notes if I need to pull them out. But there are studies that have shown that exact thing, like talking to people, or, like, even, like, there's, like, correlations between, like, deep conversations and, like, happiness. So it's like if you have, like, a deep conversation about how they're feeling, it might not make them happy, but, like, it could bring a little bit of that, like, connectedness back into their life to kind of prevent them a little bit from, like, thinking any further about engaging in those kind of acts. But yeah, there are studies on it that show that talking to people and following up on it. There's a specific study that was done, and it was, like, right before we really knew, like, talking about like suicide wasn't going to cause it. So it's like people like, after, like, people would go to, like, a mental hospital for suicide and they'd be sent off, they, like, wouldn't get any follow-up on it because they were still under the impression that if you talked about it and gave them the idea, it would push them further into it. And then there was a study done where they selected selected a group of people that were, like, kind of, like, what's the word, they were, like, released, I guess, from the mental hospital.
Okay.
Half of them were given like, follow-up notes, just like, hey, we're thinking of you, how are you doing, like, are you thinking of it more, like, just, like, asking directly about it. And then the second half,
Like,
was
avoidant.
Yeah, the second half, they not that they, like, didn't send it, but they just, like, the second half of the group was just, like, doing what they initially been doing. So it sounds unethical now, but in the time, they were just letting them do what they had been doing. Like, so it's like, it makes sense. But the group that got those follow-up notes had a, like, lower rate of, like, suicide after getting released,
Cause, like, compared to the one that did.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
There's evidence behind it, but yeah, it just, I don't know, opening up the floor, talking about emotions, everything helps in the long run.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Of course.
Bye.
Bye.